Hi guys, how are you doing? Like I promised, we're going to read the next two chapters of Blood on the River. I went ahead and downloaded the PDFs for you, and I flipped them so that they're right side this time, like they should have been so far. We are going to get ready to read chapters 24 and 25, but before we do that, I want to just kind of review what we've read so far for those of you who may not have remembered. Remember, this is the summer of 1609 right now, and Sam has just come back to Jamestown. And he's discovered that there are not only more men, but there's women and there's children as well in Jamestown. Captain Archer and Captain Ratcliffe have returned, and they want to get rid of Captain Smith. That's been their agenda from the beginning. They have a new charter or a new rule book, I guess, that states that there's going to be a governor now in Jamestown, and it's not going to be a president. And so this governor is going to be Sir Thomas Gates. He's the governor, and he orders President John Smith to step down. So the new that causes some problems because the new settlers who have just moved into Jamestown, they don't have much respect for Captain John Smith. They don't have much respect for him, unlike the older settlers who do. And so that's causing a power struggle. Remember when Sam talked about when someone gains power, someone else loses it, and it's another good example of that. The new settlers have started to kill the natives and burn their homes because they feel empowered, they feel superior to them. And so that has obviously broken the peace that was between the natives and the settlers to begin with. And so Captain Smith he's angered, he's upset, and we left off in chapter 23 where he is going to attempt to try and make peace with them again. Sam's a little leery about him going on this expedition, this journey, because he's afraid that, it might be a trap. Because again, they have been wanting, not the settlers, but the gentlemen have been in to get Captain Smith from the get-go. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to read chapters 24 and 25. I'm going to go ahead and click on it and pop it on up here, and I'll try to blow it up for you a little bit. Let me see if I can move this real fast. There we go, 24. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right, I'm gonna move me over here for right now, and I'll move me later. All right, so this is chapter 24. Sleeping in his boat, accidentally, someone fired his powder bag, which tore the flesh from his body and thighs 9 or 10 inches square in a most pitiful manner. But to quench the tormenting fire frying him in his clothes, he leaped overboard into the deep river where they would recover him. He was near drowned. Sounds not good. This was from William Simon, so I'm not real sure who he's referring to, but we're going to find out in chapter 24. They say it was an accident. No one's fault. Captain Smith laid down in the boat to take a nap. He was still wearing his powder bag, which, while he slept, a spark must have lit the powder bag. A spark from someone's pipe or from the slow match on someone's musket. The powder caught fire and exploded. It seared the flesh right off his leg. In agony, Captain Smith leaped overboard to cool the burn. His leg was so badly injured, and he was so weak that he nearly drowned before the men could pull him up. When Captain Smith comes back to us, he's crazed with pain, moaning, and delirium. 3 men carry him into the fort. The flesh on his thigh is burned black and red, the skin hanging ragged and oozing. He is our fallen hero, leader, and he has fallen all the way down. The doctor gives Captain Smith medicine to ease the terrible pain, and it makes him sleep most of the day. When he is awake, I bring him food and water. When the doctor changes his bandages, I give Captain Smith the handle of a wooden spoon to bite on so that he can endure the pain. I'm surprised he has not bitten through the wood yet. It's awful to see him in so much agony. I wash his bandages, rinsing out the blood and ooze, and hang them to dry. One of the soldiers tells me that before he was injured, Captain Smith was able to make peace with Parahunt, the werowance of a village that had been ransacked by our colonists. But the soldier confides in me, the peace cannot last. There has been too much killing on both sides, and everyone is too angry. One day, I bring Captain Smith a drink of water. As I help him to sit up, he goes pale and beads of sweat break out on his face. I keep hold of the goblet in case he blacks out. They have cut off my hands and cut out my tongue, he says in a hoarse whisper. I shake my head. I don't know if he's fully awake or in a delirium. I want to tell him he still has his hands and tongue. But, sir, go get Richard, he says. I run down to the river where Richard is repairing fish nets. Richard, I called out, come quickly. He splashes through the water to meet me. I'm panting out of breath. What is it? Is it Captain Smith, he asks. Yes, no, he has not died. He's saying strange things. He asked for you. We both run up the riverbank to the fort. We enter the cabin quietly. Sir, we're both here, me and Richard, I say. Good, he says, without opening his eyes. He takes a deep breath as if he's gathering his strength. They have taken away my power here, he says. I can no longer use my hands and my words to help the colony. There is nothing more I can do. I will return to England. His words hit me like a punch in the stomach. Return to England? Richard, he says, and Richard stands up straighter. You can accompany me to England. I saw how you cared for the Reverend Hunt in his illness, and I know you will do the same for me. We will leave with the next departing ship. Samuel, he says. He opens his eyes and turns his head to look at me. You are one of the few original settlers left alive. I choose you for a reason. I chose you for a reason. I knew how hard it would be here in the New World, and that only the toughest and the strongest would survive. I'm going to do that. That's better. Okay. Reverend Hunt told me you were a fighter, full of anger and energy. I knew you would make a good settler, and you have. You will be fine here without me. You have your skills, building, farming, hunting, and you have your Algonquin language. You will stay because the colony needs you, and I release you from your servitude. I'm too stunned to speak. I feel as though I've been dropped from a great height and have landed on my feet, but I don't know where I am. But I'm your page, I say, softly. Who will I be without my master? Captain Smith shakes his head and continues, to make sure no gentleman decides to grab you up as his servant. I have apprenticed you to John Layden. You will become a carpenter in your own right. I'm filled with both sadness and wonder. Reverend Hunt was right. I will not always be a servant, but Captain Smith and Richard both leaving me at the same time? It seems as if I'd finally learned to be a friend, to open my heart and care, and now they will both be gone when the ship sails. I take a deep, shuddering breath. Yes, sir, I say. It is the only thing I can think of to say. In the weeks before the ships are ready to leave, it's time to bring in the harvest, gather oysters, and bring in the hauls of fish and meat and smoke it all so that it will last the winter. But without Captain Smith to lead us, the men shirk their work, and the gentlemen seem to have but one purpose in life, to make sure Captain Smith goes back to England as a man accused of many wrongs rather than a hero who saved our colony from extinction. They spend their time gathering in meetings, making lists of accusations against him. They do not even realize that Captain Smith's last act, making peace with Parahunt, has saved their skins, for now. I feel as though there's a noose closing in around Jamestown, ready to strangle all of us here. Chief Powhatan is angry about the coronation fiasco. The new settlers have attacked Indian villages and made enemies where we used to have friends. We have too many settlers to feed, and yet hardly anyone is working to store food for the winter. And we're about to lose Captain Smith. I can see why Captain Smith wants to take Richard with him. Truly, only the strongest and toughest will survive, which is coming. With what is coming. I wonder if I have what it takes. There is one bright spot in all of this. Anne Layden will soon have her baby. She's very happy to have other women here now, including a midwife and children to hold and admire as she waits for her own to arrive. It will be the first child born in our colony. Anne says if it is a girl, they will call her Virginia. I have learned something important from Reverend Hunt. When I lose someone, I should not close my heart to everyone, but should find someone else to fill the empty place. Captain Smith and Richard will soon leave, but I will still have friends living nearby, Namatak, Kanta, and Pocahontas. And here in Jamestown, Anne and John Layden are becoming like my new family. When their baby arrives, he or she will be like my little brother or sister. Get the midwife, now, quickly. A large woman, barely done tying her apron strings, goes running to the cabin John and Anne Layden share with 2 other families. The men and children are ushered out, and we begin the long wait. John Layden paces, his face a mask of worry. She'll be all right, I tell him. But I know that birthing kills so many women and babies that John has a reason to worry. The hours tick by. I go off to chop some wood, then come back and wait with John. He hears screams from the cabin, Anne crying out in pain of childbirth. Finally, we hear the lusty wail of a newborn baby. John runs to the door of his cabin and pounds on it. Let me in, he demands. You wait, the midwife calls back to him, and then you can see your baby girl. John laughs and cries at the same time. It's a girl, he exclaims. The baby is alive and it's a girl. Then his face darkens, and he pounds the door again. And what of my wife? He shouts. Is she well? Yes, she was brave and she is well, the midwife announces. John groans with relief. They're both alive, he says, almost incredulously. My wife and my baby girl. A few weeks later, I am one of the first people Anne allows to hold baby Virginia. She's so tiny and so delicate. Her eyes move, looking at the ceiling above me, and she smiles sweetly as if she's seeing angels. Anne says she's just making faces because she has gas. I offer Virginia my finger, and she grasps it and holds tight. As I look at her, I feel sad. I feel the coming doom. How will she survive the hard times that will soon be upon us? Virginia blows bubbles and grasps my finger even tighter. You must hold on this tightly to life, I whisper to her. So now, not only do we have women and children, we have a newborn baby in Jamestown. And Sam is worried about the impending winter coming. Sam feels that there is doom looming over Jamestown. And he's probably right, because the new settlers have kind of messed up the peace plan that the Jamestown had. So we're going to have to see in this next chapter what comes of Jamestown. There are 27 chapters, so we're really close. We're going to finish this week. So hopefully, I hate to be doing this on here because I want to see your reactions to the story, but it is what it is, guys. We work with it. Chapter 25. What shall I say, but thus we lost him, that in all his proceedings made justice his first guide and experience his second. Ever hating baseness, sloth, pride, and indignity, more than any dangers that never allowed him more for himself than his soldiers with him. But upon no danger would send them where he would want lead them himself. That would never see us want what either he had or could by any means get us, whose adventures were our lives and whose losses our deaths. William Simons. The day the ships are to leave, I go to Captain Smith's cabin to help him gather his belongings. He is able to take a few painful steps with a cane now, but it's still hard for him to get around. Everyone says he is returning to England to get better medicine than we have here, but I know he would stay if they had not robbed him of his authority and his power to help our colony. Captain Smith holds 2 strings of beads in his hands. They are a new kind, blue, with intricate designs made by layers in the glass. They are worth a fortune in trading because the Indians prize them so much. He looks at the beads sadly. I will not need these for now, he says. He holds them out for me to take. Use them to trade this winter when the hunger sets in. I'm stunned. I have never before touched these new world diamonds. As a servant, I did not feel I had the right to, and now I am no longer a servant. Slowly, I take the beads from him. They feel cold and smooth in my hand. I tuck them into the buckskin carrying pouch hanging at my waist. Captain Smith looks at me hard. Samuel, it will not be easy here. Things will happen that will make you angry, but do not let your anger get the best of you. Channel it. Let it give you strength for what you can do to change things, to make things better. Do you understand? I nod. I have watched him do this over and over, this shifting of anger into calm action. I understand, I tell him. He looks around the cabin as if he is wanting to remember it always. My throat is tight with tears, but I will not let them fall. I remember the first time I saw Captain Smith on the docks at the Blackwall, how strong and brash he seemed. I remember how I hated the idea of serving him and learning from him. Then I think of how much I have learned from him, how much I have changed because of him. I search for the right words to say what I feel, but I can't find them. I'm sorry to see you go, sir, I say, finally. Captain Smith stands a little straighter. I'll be back, he assures me. I'm not done with Jamestown yet. Then he does something that surprises me almost as much as the beads. He reaches out his hand to shake mine, as if I'm his equal, as if I'm a man. His hand is leathery and callous from the hard work he has done here. So is mine, I suppose. We shake hands heartily. Have a good voyage, sir, I say. We begin the slow, painful walk to the ships, him with his cane and me carrying a sack of his belongings. I want to find you alive and well when I return, Samuel, he said good-naturedly. No starving, no dying from the summer sickness, no getting shot full of arrows. I grin. Yes, sir, I say. His orders suit me just fine. John Layden joins us and gives Captain Smith a strong shoulder to lean on as he struggles to walk. You have been a leader, just leader, Captain, he says. What will we do without you? You experienced settlers know a thing or two about survival, Captain Smith says. Maybe these newcomers will learn from you. Others join us until we are a small knot of men walking slowly out the fort gates and down to the river. The men each have something to say. You were the best president we ever had, sir. You did more work than any of those gentlemen. Who will trade with the natives with you gone, sir? Have a safe journey, Captain Smith. The longboats are already making their trips back and forth to the mothership, and Richard is there waiting for his turn. He was still asleep when I left the cabin this morning, so this is the first I've had a chance to talk to him. Samuel, he calls to me as I approach. Are you sure you don't want to come? Think of all you're missing, the seasickness, the rats, the storms, week after week, and the nice dark 'tween deck. Take a deep breath as if I'm savoring my memory of the journey. Ah, the stench, and the way the slop bucket sloshed all over the place in rough seas. I touched my hand to my heart. I will miss it. Richard laughs. Maybe you should come back with us, he says. You could be an actor in one of Master Shakespeare's new plays. There are plenty of good things I can think about England. Fields of heather blooming in the countryside, London's busy, exciting streets, the chance to visit my mom's grave. But I will stay here in Jamestown. I touch the beads through the soft buckskin of my carrying pouch. I suppose you'll miss me terribly, I say to Richard, continuing the foolery. Who will you have fistfights with if I'm not there? He crosses his arms over his chest, and we just look at each other. The truth is, I will miss him terribly. Richard, get yourself in that longboat or you're staying here, Henry shouts. He's helping with the launch, and he has no patience. There's no time for long goodbyes. I ball up my fist and tap my chest, then my forehead, then Richard's chest and his forehead. Goodbye, friend, I say. Captain Smith and Richard ride the longboat to the ship. It's not easy for Captain Smith to climb the rope ladder to the deck, but Richard and some of the sailors help him, and he makes it. They turn for one last look at the Virginia shoreline and our fort and the group of us waving to them. Then they are ushered below to the 'tween deck for the long journey home. Soon after Captain Smith leaves, it's clear that we don't have nearly enough food to get us through winter. When Chief Powhatan sends words that he will trade for corn, Captain Ratcliffe goes strutting around the fort full of his own importance. I will take 50 men, he announces. We have piles of copper and beads, and we'll bring back plenty of corn to feed everyone. Captain Smith was not the only man skilled in trading. You will see how quickly we forget he was here. The new colonists are happy. They trust Captain Ratcliffe, and they feel confident we'll be eating well at winter. But I still see that noose, ready to strangle our colony. Then something happens that does give me hope. Hope for me and John Layden and his family. Master Percy says we will build a fort at Point Comfort, about 30 miles downriver from Jamestown, near where the river meets the Chesapeake Bay. From there, we will be able to protect Jamestown from a Spanish invasion. We'll stop the Spanish ships before they even enter the river. Soldiers will work to pile up dirt and mount artillery. John Layden and I are being sent to build cabins for the fort. We will call our fort Algernon. I fear what will happen in Jamestown this winter, with its overcrowding and lack of food. And Jamestown is the heart of our colony. I believe that if the natives attack it, it is Jamestown they'll attack. But at Point Comfort, we will have only about 30 men to feed. We'll have our own hogs, fish to catch, and oysters to dig. We will be just across the river from the Warowasak village, where the people have become like my family, and very near the Kikotans, who have been our friends because Captain Smith often stopped in to see them on his voyages. I have the blue beads and my Algonquin words. I would be very glad to spend the winter at Point Comfort instead of Jamestown. I happily gather up my belongings for the move to Point Comfort, and then I go to the Layden's cabin to offer to help them pack. When I enter their cabin, John is packing up his carpentry tools. Anne is sitting quietly, watching him while baby Virginia sleeps in her cradle. Are you already packed? I asked Anne. She looks down and shakes her head. John doesn't even glance at me. I frown. Why not? I ask. The barge will leave tomorrow morning. She isn't coming, John said quietly. What? I blurt out. But you have to come. No, I do not, Anne informs me. I finally have lots of other women here to talk to and help me with the baby, and I want to stay safe within the Palisades and not out there in the open, unprotected from the Indians. John will come to visit me whenever he can. I will stay here in Jamestown. I sputter, not believing what I'm hearing. It is much safer at Point Pleasant, I tell Point Comfort. I tell her. Our neighbors are the Kikotans, our friends, and the Warowasaks. I know everyone in the village by name. I can trade if we run short of food. Anne shakes her head. I have made up my mind, she says. You won't be safe within the palisade, I insist. The new settlers have made war with the Powhatans. John, tell her what it was like when we first got here. How we couldn't even step outside the palisade to hunt without being shot at, and men starved. John stops working for a moment. I told her, he says. She is stubborn and knows what she wants. Then order her to leave to Jamestown, I nearly shout it. John looks up at me, one eyebrow raised. I realize that I have said a stupid thing. It's not in his nature to order his wife to do something against her will. She wants to stay with the other women, he says. I won't take that away from her. Anne crosses her arms over her chest and gives me a self-satisfied look. Besides, she says, our leaders are not at war with the Powhatans. Chief Powhatan just invited Captain Ratcliffe to come to Warokomoko to trade. They will have a feast and entertain them with dances just like you told me about, and they'll come back with lots of corn. We will have all we need to eat in Jamestown this winter. We won't even have to go out of the palisade. I want to grab her and shake her and shout into her face. There is no safety in Jamestown. I'm seething with anger. Why can't they see? Why won't they listen to me? I want to punch something. I ball up my fist, ready to slug the wall. Then the image flashes in my mind of Captain Smith ready to lose control of his anger. Then of him taking a deep breath, focusing, calming, devising a plan. I hear Captain Smith's voice in my head. Samuel, do not let your anger get the best of you. Channel it. Let it give you strength to change things. I take a breath. I try to calm the fury inside me. I walk over to the cradle where baby Virginia is sleeping, and she is wrapped in a blanket, her eyes fluttering in sleep, her little mouth making sucking motions. She's so new and she's so innocent. I look at Anne. She's young and innocent too, only 15, and she's naive. She trusts Captain Smith to keep her safe and fed. Suddenly, it is Reverend Hunt's voice I hear in my head. You must learn to make decisions out of love, not out of fear. I take another deep breath. My anger is focused. I have made a decision. I have a plan. I believe Reverend Hunt will approve. I have made this decision out of love. I'm about to steal a baby. And that's the end of chapter 25. And you'll have to find out in a couple days what happens, because it's the end of the book. All right. It's getting good, isn't it? There's only 2 chapters left, and I'm going to post them on Thursday. So what I want you to do, boys and girls, is you're going to go down to the Google Forms, and you're going to jot down some thoughts as to how you felt about chapters 24 and 25. I'm kind of interested to see what you guys are thinking, because I'm excited to read the next 2 chapters with you, and I will post those on Thursday morning. Okay? All right. Get typing. I'll talk to you later. Bye.